The moon hung high in the ink-black sky as John's car pulled into the forsaken gas station. The air was heavy with an unsettling stillness, and a bone-chilling breeze whispered through the desolate pumps. The neon sign above buzzed with a sinister energy, casting an otherworldly glow that seemed to warp reality itself. As he stepped out of his car, the cracked pavement seemed to groan beneath his boots, as if bearing witness to his presence in this accursed place. The shadows stretched and contorted, creating unsettling shapes that danced at the edge of his vision. John's unease grew as he realized that the silence was absolute, almost as if the world itself was holding its breath. The gas station's attendant booth loomed ahead, its windows smudged with an oily residue that made the glass look like it held trapped souls. John peered inside, half expecting to find someone there, waiting to assist him. But the booth was empty, a void of darkness that seemed to absorb all light. A bell hung above the door, its metal clapper swinging gently in the breeze. John's voice broke the silence as he called out, "Hello?" The sound seemed to vanish into the night, leaving nothing but an eerie echo that seemed to linger. His grip tightened on the nozzle as he began to fill his tank, each drop of gasoline falling with a heavy resonance that seemed to punctuate the stillness. The wind shifted, and for a fleeting moment, John felt as though he was being watched from the shadows that clung to the edges of his vision. As he continued fueling, a flicker of movement caught his eye, a figure standing just beyond the boundaries of the gas station's feeble illumination. He blinked, his heart quickening, but when he looked again, the figure had vanished. A knot of fear tightened in his stomach. The nozzle clicked off, and John's gaze shifted toward the gas station's entrance. He needed to find someone, to break the oppressive silence that seemed to wrap around him like a vice. But as he turned, he found himself facing an aisle of the station's convenience store, its interior obscured by fogged windows that gave the place an otherworldly quality. Hesitation gnawed at him as he pushed open the door, the bell above chiming with a mournful metallic sound. Inside, the store unfolded like a twisted maze, its aisles winding and looping in bizarre patterns that defied logic. The shelves were lined with products that looked like they had been untouched for decades, their packaging faded and weathered. "Is anyone here?" John's voice was swallowed by the oppressive atmosphere of the store. The overhead lights flickered erratically, casting elongated, disjointed shadows that seemed to stretch and contort as if they had a life of their own. As he ventured deeper into the store, the sound of his own footsteps seemed to grow louder, reverberating through the space in an unnaturally amplified manner. He found himself surrounded by an unsettling quiet that was broken only by the creaking of the ancient floorboards beneath his feet. A rustling sound emerged from a nearby aisle, causing John's heart to hammer in his chest. He strained to hear, the hairs on the back of his neck prickling as the rustling grew closer. The footsteps that accompanied it were soft but unmistakable, their source impossible to pinpoint. The whispers began then, a chorus of disembodied voices that seemed to resonate from the very walls. Their words were a cacophony of torment, the syllables laden with a malevolent intent that sent icy tendrils creeping down John's spine. He turned toward the end of the aisle, his breath caught in his throat. Shapes began to emerge from the shadows, twisted, grotesque figures that moved with an unsettling fluidity. Their forms defied the laws of nature, their limbs bending and contorting in ways that should have been impossible. Fear surged through John as he stumbled back, his pulse racing like a drumbeat in his ears. The figures advanced, their eyes glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light that seemed to pierce through the darkness. They moved with an unnatural grace, their movements almost dance-like in their unsettling beauty. He tore his gaze away from the advancing horrors and turned to flee the store, desperate to escape the suffocating nightmare that had ensnared him. The bell above the door jingled wildly as he burst back into the gas station's exterior, the cold air hitting him like an icy blast. With trembling hands, John fumbled for his car keys, his heart racing as he glanced around. The gas station seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, its neon sign buzzing with a fevered intensity that cast warped, twisted shadows across the pavement. The figures had multiplied, a legion of contorted shapes that surrounded his car, their eyes fixated upon him with an hunger that sent a jolt of primal terror through his veins. The whispers had grown into a maddening chorus, a cacophony of torment that seemed to penetrate the very core of his being. John's hand shook as he inserted the key into the ignition, his fingers slipping on the metal. With a strangled cry, he managed to turn the key, and the car's engine roared to life. He slammed the car into gear, the tires screeching as he tore away from the gas station. As the car's headlights cut through the darkness, John dared a glance into the rearview mirror, his heart stopping as he saw the figures lingering in the gas station's glow. Their forms twisted and distorted, their eyes glowing like malevolent stars in the night. He drove for miles, his breath coming in ragged gasps, his mind a whirlwind of terror and disbelief. The memory of the figure's haunting gaze remained burned into his mind, a nightmarish image that refused to fade. John knew he had escaped something that defied all rational explanation, a nightmare that had clawed its way into his reality. And as he sped away from the gas station, he couldn't shake the feeling that the horrors he had witnessed were still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the next unsuspecting victim.